Kane homepage now. Kane homepage. We're rolling. It's going to take a second. Hopefully not too many, but do not turn off computer. Oh my goodness. You're on. Okay, I'm coming. Actually, if you could type in CIRT as the login ID and CIRT as the password also. That's right. CI. Okay, now we're going to go to CaneWise. And once you're in CaneWise, I'm hoping you're going to log in. Okay, and as I had mentioned, I can't do this on the overhead because I don't have any rosters. I'm hoping all of you have a roster. If you don't have a roster, you might. I don't want to because it's going to have student information on it, and I think we're going to be, I'm thinking it might not be, on a regular day I would have, just to make it a quick show. Your own CaneWise is where you should be logging in. Okay. And does everyone know how, once you log in, to get to your roster? You click on class roster, and then, okay, I know Josh is going to need me, so I'm going to ask if you can scooch in a tiny bit. Now, all I want to do for you, Josh, is I want to make your monitor, or your screen, the window bigger. Click on the middle guy so you can see the whole thing, because we're going to do a copy and paste, and you're going to need big monitor to pick this. You know, if you want to pick any class, but if you pick one that you have this semester, you'll be able to walk away with a grade book. Right. I mean, if you're just practicing and you want to pick a previous semester, I'm okay with that. But if you want to walk away today with a grade book ready to go, so we're trying to get to Kane. Come up here. I've never tried. Is she in your department? Is that the? Right. We can give it a try, but I would ask you to go and log in. I mean, never give her your. So everyone is in CaneWise. Pick a class roster. You pick first the current semester, and then a class roster. So just to be sure, we've all clicked on CaneWise. And I'm hoping everyone is noticing we're using Internet Explorer. Okay. That's the best question I could get. No good. No Firefox. Internet Explorer. I'm pretty sure I said Internet Explorer. So. Right. I'm very, very precise in what browser I'm going to recommend. For CaneWise, Internet Explorer. The reason I want you to, yes, you have the roster? Okay, so stop right there. Anybody else who's using Firefox, log out and then log back in. So I want to be sure I can log in, and I'm going to go to, just to be sure, we go to faculty, we select class roster, we pick a semester. I unfortunately don't have any classes I'm teaching, but from this point you should then be able to pick the radio button of the course. And well, I'm going to mention Internet Explorer is not the browser of choice for many other applications, but for CaneWise, which I call a legacy application, I think it was designed and tested using Internet Explorer. So I have tried what I'm about to show you how to do in other browsers, and it doesn't work. And it causes all kinds of confusion and problems. So even in my handout, those of you who got my handout, you might forget this next semester. But has everybody gotten the handout? Just, okay. You did, right? If you take a look at the handout on the first page, and I'm always happy to email this to you. So if you misplace it, I will email even just the first page. If you see where it says the first bullet point, copy your roster from CaneWise and paste it into Excel. Step one, I tried to put it in bold to remind you. So in the spring, when you do this again, if you happen to pull out this handout because you forgot the steps, I'm hoping you'll see that it says use Internet Explorer, because many people call me on the phone, it's not working, I tried, and I say, well, what are you? I'm using Chrome, I'm using Firefox. That's why it's not working. So using Internet Explorer, we're going to log in, get to our roster. Now, once you have your roster, we're going to do a copy and a paste. Some of you have more students in your class than others, so you might have to scroll down and let it, go all the way to the bottom. We're going to copy from the word student. Do you see the word student at the very top? Even though it's not anybody's actual name, I want you to hover over the S in student, click, hold down your mouse, and then just drag down until you get to the bottom row, and then go across on the bottom row to make sure you get all of that data. So click, drag down, and go all the way across. And then once you've got that one, let go. And then there are a couple of things you can do, but I'm going to recommend you can right-click and select paste, or Control-C on your keyboard. We'll copy it. Right-click and click copy. I'm sorry, copy. Okay, the question is, where did we right-click? I'm going to come in, highlight again. Sorry. I'm going to watch you do it. Go ahead and down, across. Okay, you got it? Hover over anywhere in here. Now right-click. Right-click. And copy. I recommend Control-C, because if you click in the wrong place, if it's not somewhere inside, right, that's why you lost it. So you right-clicked and you picked copy. Okay, everybody managed a Control-C or a no? I'm going to come over and look. I'm sorry that I'm going back and forth here. I want you to watch Josh, actually, and maybe even help him a little bit. He's very good.
I've gone here.
Right.
I've got my roster.
Okay, I don't want you to highlight this.
Okay, so I go from student.
Right.
Come down here.
Right.
Control-C.
Control-C. Don't do anything yet. Oop, I'm going to trip on your bag.
Seen everything deleted out. As it all went clear.
Don't worry. It should be there. Then go to, I want everyone now to launch Excel. Okay, I'm going to come and help, I promise. Everybody launching Excel now? Okay.
So I just did the Control-C. You told me it wasn't a problem.
And what version of Excel? I just want to be sure I know what we're using. Is it 2010?
2007.
Okay. Hover. No, this is 2010. Don't use. Yeah, use. Hover that one. Match destination formatting. Click that. Excel is not responding.
That's what I get every time I try it. And if I go out of it, I come back with a black screen.
Okay. I want you to try it on one of these for now. Something's going on with this, and I'm not going to, figure out why Excel is not working on your laptop right now.
It does work, because I go into Excel and I've written programs and done software.
But there's something going on grabbing data and pasting it into Excel. I'm positive that I can get you to do it on another machine. I'm positive. I'm going to say I will look at it.
This because our problem schools. This is my machine in my office.
Yeah, I do understand.
This is how I have to do it. And that's what I want to have the problem solved.
Well, I'm not going to be able to fix your laptop at the moment, but I might be able to after. We'll see. We'll even maybe try it again. If I can get you to do it on this one, then we'll determine that it's this. That's unless there's something else. Okay, so has everybody gotten to Excel? Yeah. Okay, I want you now to just click on your keyboard. Actually, type on your keyboard. Control-V is paste. Control-V. Hold the Control key and hit the letter V. Now, when it comes in, you're going to see a gray box. Don't do anything. I think we might have caught a little too much. Now, it takes a moment for it to come in. You'll see maybe the hourglass working. Once the hourglass goes away, what you should see at the bottom right corner is that little icon that looks like a clipboard. That's your paste options. Click on that paste options and select match destination formatting. Say, okay, we might have to try it again. Data on the clipboard is not the same. Okay, well, I'm going to watch you do it first. We're going to click undo. We're going to try again. Were you able to get to a roster? I didn't know if you... Okay, okay, we have one working. Right? That worked? That was good. That was good. Right? Mm-hmm. Hmm. No, 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 don't go row down because you don't need it. It'll be, because I want the first row to be that row that we copied. Give it a paste. Give it a moment. Let the hourglass go. Okay, click on that. And match destination formatting. There it is. It should work. Josh must have grabbed something extra. When you do the copy, it's very important that you copy from that word student at the top and then down to that bottom row. If you grab more than that bottom row, it's going to tell you it can't do it. Let's see. Yeah.
Start over and do it.
Let's see. Josh, do it from the S in student. Click and drag down. Go ahead. You can click now. Drag down, 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 down. Okay, that's good. Should be good. Oh, okay. You can.
He had that before, though.
I'm not sure why the advisor is in there even. That's something extra, but
That's where he was highlighted before.
yeah. Let's try again. We'll try and we'll see what happens. Well, I'm going to come over actually, and I'm going to. No, that's not. We're going to just go down, down. I want to make sure. Yeah, it does look like we're good. That should be good.
So
Okay, so when I said at the last row, you sometimes have to drag across, but I want to be sure you're not going and catching anything extra. Even you might not be able to tell that you're catching this line at the bottom, but it'll have, Excel will have a problem with it.
See,
So make sure you go to the end here.
he only had it through here.
Okay,
So
well,
we
let's
didn't
see.
go all the way
Let's
over.
see. Now we're going to Control C to copy. Control C. Mm-hmm.
That's when you paste.
Copy, right. Okay, now Excel is open over here. Mm-hmm. And hit undo because we want to, this little arrow, get rid of that again, undo, undo. Okay, now Control V to paste. V. Wait until it, I'm hoping. This is new for me. I don't remember seeing the names of, right, advisors. So I guess that's new in CaneWise now. And match destination formatting. We're good. Okay. I know that that was not the smoothest copy and paste, but it's the best way I have found to grab. Okay, so you feel that that's a good, usually faculty at that point, they thank me and say that was the best thing and I don't even need help because they know how to use Excel to do a grade book. It's just a matter of getting the student data in there. Now, what I usually recommend at this point is I tell everyone to name this worksheet. I don't even do anything with this worksheet because you might need to come back at some point and look at it with all the data. I might say, okay, you could neaten it up and delete some of the blank columns that are in there. Maybe expand the width of a column. If you're not seeing the names, does everyone know how to expand the width of a column? I'm going to show you, Josh. If you double-click between B and C, that little line between B and C, double-click on it. You don't have to drag it. It'll automatically open up to the width of their name. Their full name will come in there. You might need to change the names of the column at the top because that doesn't come in perfectly, I'm sad to say. But I want to be sure that everyone sees now that they have a full roster in there. So you might go in and you might type something like, I think it brings a number in. And then you might put the student's name. You might have name. I think you have the ID number. If what I'm doing on the overhead is I'm showing this first row, you might click on those cells and be sure that it contains the name of what that column contains. Right, we're just tidying it up. We're just cleaning this up. But I tell faculty usually you don't need to tidy it up too much because we're going to just hold on to this data. And the reason I hold on to the data is because usually the main thing I need for a grade book is just the names of my students. And then I'm going to start putting in. Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't need to know that they're graduate student. I don't need to know the student. I don't need to know it's 3 credits.
Right. You can delete any columns that you want to delete. But there are faculty who need to see some of it. So for example, if your student is an athlete, that data is in there. When I taught, I had 2 or 3 athletes in my course. And halfway through the semester, I learned that I had to actually report how they were doing. And that helped me having that column that had marked them off as athlete. You know, I did want to look through sometimes and see. I was teaching a 1,000 level course, and it was good for me to know who was a junior. Well, I tell everyone, don't even bother tidying these up too much. Instead, I name this worksheet. So I'm going to have Josh pay attention for a moment on the overhead. Do you see how you have tabs on the bottom of an Excel workbook? That's because it has more than one page. So I double-click, point where it says Sheet 1. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit. No, it doesn't work for the sheets numbers. Where it says Sheet 1, I double-click, and I name it Canewise Data. So I just have this worksheet full with all the data from Canewise for me to go back to any time I need it. Does everyone see that? I've just double-clicked on where it said Sheet 1, and I typed Canewise Data. Once you're done typing in there, hit the Enter key, and that takes you out of the edit mode for the tab for that worksheet. And I don't do my gradebook in this worksheet. Again, I just have this to go back to if I ever need some of the information that I copied out of Canewise. Because I don't always like to have to go back into Canewise necessarily to look somebody up and see something that was in Canewise that I needed.
Basically, you're making like a generic worksheet that you can just copy and paste into all the time.
No, to tell you the truth, if I'm teaching more than one course, I recommend having more than one workbook. So I would then, even now at this point, I would save this. And that's part of the reason I had everyone log in the way we did, because I want to save this. So if we go to the Office button, once I've copied and pasted, this is the moment you want to save it. So from the Office button, select Save As. Is everyone with me? We're going to save as. We're in My Documents. You could make a folder. If you look up here, I'm in the Save As dialog box. There's the New Folder button up there. Everyone sees the new folder. And I might name this folder Fall 2013, right? Because I want to be organized. I need to go back to these files frequently. So I create a folder called Fall 2013. You know, if you're teaching 3 or 4 courses, you need to be able to get to this efficiently this semester. So now I have a Fall 2013 folder. I'm going to give this file a name. Maybe my course is, I don't know, what do I have? I'm going to call it GE 1000, making pretend I'm teaching a GE course. So give it the course number. You might put in there also, you know, even though it's in the Fall 2013 folder, I still, in my file names, I'm going to put Fall 2013, or I could put Fall 13. And I might put, you know, grade book, although I'll know it's a grade book. And save. Don't worry about renaming the columns for now. You can go back to that. We'll do fine with that. Okay, but I want to be sure that everyone has, at a minimum, so far, learned to copy a roster out of Canewise using the Internet Explorer browser. And you've seen that selecting it is a little tricky. You have to be sure you're selecting that specific column setup. You can't select extra. And if you don't select all of it, it also causes problems. So you really have to start from the word student at the top. We've pasted it into Excel. We've renamed the worksheet on top, that CaneWise data. So you know that's just the raw data that you pulled from CaneWise that you can go to at any time. Because I go back to it and I grab from it and look at it all the time. And I've heard other faculty like to have that data that came from CaneWise. Okay, now what we're going to do, and we saved that into a folder so we know where it is, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to create another worksheet. Okay, so where it says Sheet 2, I want everyone to double click on Sheet 2. And I want you to write or name it attendance or attend or anything like that. You don't have to give it a long name necessarily. Those of you working on laptops, sometimes if you give long names to your tabs, it ends up getting truncated or cut off anyway. So we're going to create an attendance worksheet. I guess I want to ask, first of all, do all of you take attendance? Does everybody take attendance? Okay, you take attendance. What do you do, Josh, to take attendance? You read their names. So in the class, you read their names and you wait for them to say, here. Okay, that's good. Okay, this is good. This is good. Yes? Okay, that's what I do. Yes, definitely. And also, I found I had almost 30 students in a course that I taught, and it was a lot for me to remember everybody's name. But pretty quickly, I could tell signatures. As much as you might think someone will sign in for someone else, I could take my first 3 attendance sheets and see. The other thing is I kept my attendance sheets alphabetically listed. And it was very quick for me to see who wasn't there. Again, if you have over 20 students in a course, sometimes that you don't want. Right, and everyone has to do a report of who's not attending. Excel can help us see that very quickly. So that's why an Excel attendance sheet is fairly important, I will say. So, Josh knows this. Well, I have a running total that actually helps me rather than seeing people who haven't signed in. I keep a running total in Excel so I can see the zeros very quickly. But that's what we're going to do now. I do a sign-in sheet, but the course that I taught also was a 3-hour course, Monday nights, 3 hours, which was fairly long. And what I'm hoping you're seeing is that you can, since you have this list in Excel, you can print it out from Excel. And you can, once you've copied and pasted, you can print this worksheet out. Very easy to do. And you put it at the door for them to, no, you can do this, Josh, I'm sure. But what I wanted to say as well is because my course was 3 hours, I did have students come late sometimes, I found. What I did was I took my sign-in sheet at about 15 minutes in. I was, Okay, what I want to do now is I want to copy my list, my names from my CaneWise data worksheet to my attendance worksheet. So what I'd like everyone to do is click on the first student's name when it's a thick white plus sign and drag it down to select that range of cells that just has the students' names in it. So again, click and drag so that we've selected our list of students, just their names. Okay, and Control-C will copy it. When you're in the copy mode, you get, I call them marching ants around that range of cells. So click and drag to select that range of cells. I want to be sure Josh can do it too. Go to the attendance worksheet. I typed name in cell A1. If I click on cell A2, I'm going to just hit Control V for paste. And now I should have all of my students in a clean worksheet. This is going to be my attendance worksheet. And again, this way I'm keeping my Canewise data on one worksheet, and now I have a separate worksheet just for attendance. It's okay. Let's see. I don't know if I can put you over here. I don't know if this machine came up. If it didn't, no, it shut down. That one should be okay, yes. What we did was Internet Explorer, log into Canewise, and I'll try to come over and help you copy your roster into Canewise. Okay, so did everybody manage to copy and paste their list of students? Did it work, Josh? You got your list of students on your attendance worksheet? Okay. Now we're going to put the dates that the class meets. Right? So, the dates, because we want to track their attendance each date. So say you have a class that meets on Mondays or Tuesdays, or say you have a class that meets on Tuesday, Thursday. I don't know, what kinds of classes do we have here? Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, ooh, Tuesday, Friday, ooh. Okay. Some of these combinations are going to be tricky, and Excel can help us, but it won't always work. So I like to give the caveat that what I want to show you how to do is autofill. But if the dates that your class meets are sort of strange, like Tuesday, Friday, it might work, it might not. We'll give it a try. The first one I want to try is if it meets once a week. So who has a once-a-week class? Okay, and what was the first day you met? Wednesday. What was? Okay, so 9/6, right? I'm just putting, oh, actually, I need to, yeah, this is right, 9/6. This is Excel, so we're putting in a date. I'm just going to type 9/6 and hit Enter. And I'm hoping what you're seeing happens is I get 6-September. Did everyone see that? Did that work? Okay, in the next cell, when's the next Wednesday that you met? That was yesterday, right? The 11th, right? So I'm going to put 9/11 and hit Enter. And I'm going to hopefully see this. So if you want to experiment, there's no problem, even if your class doesn't meet Wednesdays. We're just going to play a little bit with Excel's autofill. Now, I'm going to say, if you don't feel comfortable doing autofill, you could conceivably just type in each date. But I like to avoid that. That's why I like to show everyone how to copy and paste out of Canewise, because when we just do the data entry, a lot of times mistakes happen. So the screen might not be as bright. It's also a little bit smaller than it usually is. Okay, I'm zooming in. Does that help a little bit? If I zoom in? Okay, good. So all I did was I typed 9/6 and then 9/11. And Excel recognizes it as a date. Excel is very picky about data entry, but I've done it correctly if it comes up like that. Now I'm selecting both cells. Does everyone see how I did that when it was a thick plus sign like that? The icon, I went over and I selected that range of cells, 2 cells. What I'm doing is I'm telling Excel that I want every Wednesday. I'm giving it a pattern, Wednesdays. I often tell people that Excel reminds me of when I was teaching my children patterns when they were little. You know, my son would say, red, green, is that a pattern? And I say, well, not yet. Red, green is a pattern when it's red, green, red, green. So if I just put Wednesday, Excel won't see that as a pattern until I put Wednesday, Wednesday. And it says, oh, you want Wednesdays. So I have to also select both cells in that range, so Excel understands. And if I hover, if everyone can look on the overhead for a moment, when I hover over the bottom right corner of that range of cells that I've selected, can you see how my pointer changes from the thick white plus sign to a thin black? When it's thin like that, if I click and drag, It's going to try to automatically fill in. Oh, it put September 16th. That's not what I wanted. 20, it might be. Was that not a Wednesday? Right, right, right. So Excel is smarter than I am. I'm thinking, yeah, let's try 9/5. The 4th was Wednesday. Thank you. I'm not paying enough attention. Okay, but that's not a bad thing to see. Did you see how then it tried to put the 6th in? Excel tried to understand what pattern I was establishing. Increment of 5 days. So Excel understands what I give it. I gave it an increment of 5 days, and it was going to do an increment of 5 days all the way across. Now I'm doing an increment, hopefully, of 7 days. I need to select both cells. And now, hopefully, I'm going to come with the 18th, the 25th. Hopefully, these are the Wednesdays. I'm going all the way across up to, I don't know, where are we going up to? December 25th? No. Probably the 18th for this one will be the last time you meet. So I'm hoping what you're seeing, and again, it might be different for all of you, but this is what we call autofill, and Excel can basically take a pattern and repeat it with autofill. Whatever I tell it the pattern is. If I say increment every 2 days, it will do that. The problem with some of your classes is that Excel might try to pull in weekend days. So what I want to do next is try a class that meets 2 days a week, so I can show you how to make that work. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Let's say the class meets, I don't know, does anyone have Monday, Tuesday? Give me something easier. Monday, Tuesday might not work. Like a Monday, Wednesday, or you had a Tuesday, Thursday. Are you teaching Monday, Wednesday? Okay, so what's the first class date? Oh, it wasn't Monday. You had Labor Day. So it started with a Wednesday, which was the 4th for her class. For Monday, Wednesday class, the first day was the 4th. The second class was what day then? The 11th. No. If she's Monday, Wednesday, then it was the 9th, right? 9/9. And then the next one was 9/11. Okay. Now, for something like this, I've put the first 3. Excel will have a problem with this if I try to select all of them. So I'm going to consider September 4th to be an outlier, and I'm not going to include it. Instead, I'm going to grab just September 9th and 11th, starting with a Monday, Wednesday. So sometimes you have to do a little data entry for that extra one. And I'm going to drag it across and see what I get. Okay, that's a problem, right? That wasn't what we wanted. So let's say I'm going to just go in there, and I don't know if this will fix it, but I'm going to try. Say I went all the way across, and it's doing every other day, because Excel is very literal. It doesn't understand that we're teaching, and we mean our class meets Monday, Wednesdays. I get a special box over here. Does everyone see that special box that comes up at the end? And it's trying to do something called fill series. It says, this is the series you want every other day. I'm going to say fill weekdays instead of fill series and see if that helps. I don't know. Tell me. No? Yeah. No, that's right.
9, 11, 16, 18, 22, 25. Is that what you have?
Yep. So it can work.
So what did you end up selecting?
After you do this autofill, it comes up with this nice box back here. Before you click, if you click away, it might not be available anymore. This box over here, it was set to fill series. That's the default. It's going to try to do every other day in a series. But I said, no, I just want weekdays. I don't want you to consider the weekends in there. So it then understood, oh, you just want Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday. So autofill gives me some options I can change. Does that make sense, sort of? Okay, and if worst case scenario, you end up typing in your dates, which is no fun, but I'm lazy. I look for every possible shortcut, and I love autofill in Excel. So if your class meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm just giving this as an example, you would put in that first Monday, Wednesday, Friday, do your autofill. It's probably still going to think every other day. You'll have to select fill weekdays, and it'll put in Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, experiment. Those might work. They should. The Monday, Tuesday should work. As long as after you do the fill, make sure you select weekdays so that it will. It might think, I don't know. That one we'll have to try one-on-one to see. So I'm hoping everybody's done this more or less. And we're going to now, I only managed to get up to November 11, nope, it won't go. So I'm going to, I'm going to be lazy. And I'm going to try, I'm going to do just, for example, I'm going to do a class that meets 1 day a week. Is everyone okay with that as an example? So we're going to try that. And the 1 day a week was, I want to get to the, which one did we decide? It was the, I'm trying to redo. Which one did we want to say? We wanted to say not Monday, it was a Wednesday. So that was the 6th, was that right? And the 11th. 6, 7, 8. No, that was 5 days. It was the 4th, I'm sorry. 9/4. I think that's right, right? Yes. So if I do just the 4th and the 11th, if we did a class that met just on Wednesdays, and I'm going up to December 18th. Once I've done that, I'm going to do a total at the end. Is everyone with me? We've put our dates across, I hope. And we're going to do a total at the end. Okay, so again, this is just for practice, doing a tally on attendance. So our first column should be all of our student names, and then each other column is going to be the date that our class meets. And we could print this out for our students to sign. I'm going to be honest, what I do, I don't print this out when I have students sign in. I create a separate sign-in sheet. I just copy my list of students from Excel and I paste it into Word. And I have them sign in on a Word worksheet because I didn't want people to sign in on a day, maybe later on. I couldn't be observing it that closely. So I had a separate sign-in sheet for each class. And I did have students challenge me when I sent out their grade for attendance halfway through. So I liked having that sign-in sheet so I could be sure I could check it. Okay, the next thing I like to do is I create what I call the perfect student so that I have a tally for what a perfect student would get. So I'd like everyone to click on the name of their first student in the list. Yes, I might try to come over and help you shortly. But for now, if you just have a worksheet that has dates across the top and a column for, like I did, student 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that, you're going to be with us, and I'll show you the copy and paste. What I like to do is I like to insert a row above my first student where I'm going to have a tally for a perfect student. So if everyone has selected the name of their first student, if you go to the Insert button, and I want you to insert a row above. Some people just right-click and insert a row above. So I've put a row over here, and I type in perfect student. Okay, and I do this especially for my gradebook calculation because I want to be sure all of my numbers add up to 100 at the end. So I keep using my perfect student to check my math. The perfect student is my math check. All right, so say September 4th came along and I walked into my class and I put my sign-in sheet out. My Excel spreadsheet, I put the number 1. Let's make sure it works. Uh-oh, did everyone put the number 1 and it didn't work? Try to put the number 1 for perfect student because I want to give them a point for attending. Mine came up as a date. Did everyone's come up as, it came up as a date or it came up as a 1? Okay, if it came up as a 1, you're good. I actually like that I get the mistake. It doesn't always happen. But sometimes Excel thinks it's smarter than I am, and it says, oh, we're doing dates, because they see the top of my column as a date. So I have to let it know that I'm going to be doing numbers now, not dates. So I usually select this range of cells all the way down to my last student, and I'm not even sure how far out we go. So if I select this range of cells, I've gone pretty far enough. Just as long as you go all the way out, doesn't matter if you go further out. And does everyone see the number group and how it says custom up here? I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select number. I need to format these cells for numbers because it thinks that they're going to contain dates. So when I come back now, I should see that I have a number 1 over there. Was everyone able to format their cells as a number? Okay, I'm going to come over. So what happened? Did you put the number 1 in?
No.
Click over here and type the number 1. You might not need to do this. Let's see. Type just the number 1 and hit enter. Okay, you did come up with a date. So click on that cell, this January 1st one. Click and drag. Drag and drag down to. Down, 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 down. Okay, good. Doesn't matter how far it goes. Up here where it says custom, this is the number group. We're going to make sure that it sees it as a number. And that's it. So we formatted those cells to contain numbers. It's really important that they contain numbers. Okay? Now, the next thing I usually do is I come into my class feeling very optimistic, and I give everybody a point for attending. So I just auto-filled. Did everyone see what I did? And I get a 1 all the way down. Does everyone know how to do that? I'll do it again. I have this, I just entered 1 for my perfect student because they're going to attend every day, right? And I hovered over the autofill at the bottom right corner. And if I only have 1 cell selected with some data in it, it will repeat that data all the way down or all the way across. So now everyone hopefully attended. But then I look at my sign-in sheet 10 minutes into the class, 15 minutes into the class, and it's alphabetically arranged, and I can see my blanks right away. So then I might come in and say, oh, student 3 didn't show up, and I give them a 0, and student 14 didn't show up. I give them a 0. And I'm done with taking attendance electronically now. Because, again, my sign-in sheet is so easy. It's alphabetically just arranged the way my workbook is. I can look and see even by the numbers. And I might decide to put a number column. I don't know if any of you like to do that, but I do that sometimes. I might come over here and I might insert a column, and I might type 1, 2, and then select those 2 and bring it down, just to have them numbered as well. But I included my perfect student in that numbering. I shouldn't have done that. But I sometimes like to have a numbered column. Up to you. So everyone filled in the 1s all the way down, and you put in a couple of absences, I'm hoping, maybe 2 or 3. The next thing I do is I take this 1 for my perfect student, and I already know that they're going to attend every class. So I autofill that 1 also all the way across through the last day of class. Everyone was able to do that, more or less? Yeah? Okay. If you have that filled out all the way across, my perfect student comes every class. Now I can do a tally and see how many times we're going to meet this semester. So if I click on the cell underneath total, I want to be sure everyone's in the cell underneath total. Josh, were you able to fill the 1s all the way across? Okay. You got the 1s all the way across? No. I'm getting a debate over here. 2s, 3s. Okay. Okay, let's undo all the way. That's because you selected 2 cells. Just select this 1. Now hover over the bottom right corner and click and drag across to November 27th that way. Keep going, and it will repeat. If you select more than, no, not into the total, right there, let go. Perfect. Now click on that one. It will increment it. It will think it's Higher? Okay. Can you undo it so that you just have that one alone? I'm going to come over and take a look. I want to be sure everyone's in the total now. Their total box is selected. Okay. Click the one. That one. Okay. And it is incrementing. Oh, it's because it says 1 o'clock. Yes. Oh my goodness. That's funny. But I'm going to come in and take a quick look, but we're going to format it, hopefully. Okay, through November 27th we did. That's okay. That's good. We're still learning. We're going to make sure it's number. 0.04. Oh my goodness, I have no idea. So I'm going to go back completely. Okay.
So you typed 1.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try. No. I'm going to continue to undo. Okay, I don't know.
So we have perfect student.
If I put a 1 in. Okay, that looks good. So now with that 1, I'm going to autofill down. That looks good. And I'm going to autofill, looks good, across. Right, we're going to do a sum now. So everybody's in the last. Okay, I'm just going to type, and we're waiting for me. Does everyone know where the auto sum button is on the home tab? It's up here. That little guy, it has that funny symbol. If I click on that little icon, that little inverted triangle to the right where it says auto sum, I'm going to get, oh, actually I didn't click on the right, but it automatically knows what I want to do. I'm hoping everyone has this. If I click on the right, that little inverted triangle, and I select sum, somehow Excel knows, it already puts the formula in with an equal sign sum, open paren, close paren, and it's selected the range of cells that I want to add up. Excel sometimes makes mistakes, and I have to reselect the range of cells that I want it to add up, but in this case it didn't. So if everybody has it looking like this, everybody with me? Yeah? Hit enter. And for me, on my classes that I'm meeting once a week on Wednesdays, it turns out we're going to meet 16 times. Is that good? Okay, now we're going to do something even fancier. Are you ready? Click on your total of 16 or however many classes. I want to be sure everyone's got that. And when you click on it, I'm hoping you're seeing here, it has the number 16 in the cell, but in the formula bar, it shows it's the sum. Okay, everyone sees that, right? Now we're going to autofill. If you take a look up front, if I hover over the bottom right corner of that cell and I get the thin plus sign, I'm going to click and drag it down for all my students. Okay, so does everyone have what I am seeing, I'm hoping now? What will happen is you're going to have a running total of your students for their attendance this semester. So you can always look and see how they're doing with their attendance. You can look at the tally. What I like to do is I like to do a freeze pane. I'm feeling like I can show you that. Are you ready for a freeze pane? Because the problem is I'm looking at my tally over here, but especially because I have it zoomed in a little bit, I can't see who matches up with the 0 when I need to do my not attended report, right? I don't want to make a mistake and give the wrong person that tally. So if I go to the View tab, and I'm scrolling over here, what I want to do is I want to see the name of my student. And I want to get that total over to it. So I want to freeze here. I might want to freeze my dates too, so I can always see my dates if I scroll up and down. So the way to do that is I'm going to select the cell where I want the freeze to happen. Over here. I want my freeze to happen here and here. So it holds this and it holds this if I scroll. So I want you to click most likely on that cell that has that first date and the perfect student. Everyone's there? and I'm going to select where it says freeze panes. Does everyone see that? Keep rows and columns visible while the rest of the worksheet scrolls. Okay, can you maybe see now you have these lines that have come along? Where it's, I clicked on, where is it, freeze panes. Now watch what happens if I scroll right to left, or left to right. Can you see what it's happening? It's holding the names of my students, so I can now just see my tallies right next to the student name. So I won't mess up. I'm going to see right away, oh, student 3, after the first 3 classes has a 0 happening. You could, yeah, you could definitely do that. I like a freeze pane because I find myself scrolling back and forth a lot, and sometimes I need to look at a certain date because they say, oh, I was here on that day, or so I need to look at my sign-in sheet and my Excel sheet and make sure I've got everything right. I really try to do my data entry on the day of the class when I have that sheet right there, if I can. That I found prevented any lag time and any mistakes. Right there, I saw who hadn't signed in, and I just put my zeros in quickly. Done. And the tally is going on because I've set this up in advance. Okay, so that's basically an attendance worksheet that I found very effective. And I'm happy to work one-on-one. I tell everyone this. At the beginning of the semester, you can tell people they can come over to our office in 147. We'll log into CaneWise, copy rosters, and paste them into Excel workbooks. We'll create an attendance sheet, put the dates in, and create that tally. So then it will, throughout the semester, you can always check and see who's attending, who's not, because it's a running total. Okay, does that make sense? Everybody, any questions before we leave attendance? Right, I'm going to catch you up. I will. Everyone tell her that it's easy, right? Easy to copy and paste from CaneWise. I do like to warn people that, it's CaneWise can be a slight bump. But again, that's why I often tell people, and they do this. Some people come in the week before classes start, and they just do it while they're over there. So when they have a problem, I'm there. And I say, oh, when you selected, you missed this piece, or whatever it might be that's causing a problem in copy and paste. Oh, you forgot to use Internet Explorer. Okay, we're going to now create a third worksheet. So if everyone double clicks on sheet 3, we're going to call it grades. And then hit enter. This is my moment to take some time and talk about your syllabus. Okay, everybody has a syllabus, right? All right. When I work one-on-one with faculty on grade books, which I do, is I beg them to bring their syllabus with them. Because your syllabus already outlines exactly what's going to go in this grade book. It's done if you have a syllabus. Because you have all of the assignments and how much they weigh, or how many points they're worth. And this is my moment to say this workshop, I can't do it exactly the way everybody does it. I'm going to do a percentage-based grade book now. But some people do points. And really, it's your decision completely. So how many of you use a point system? Since I have, okay, we have points. We're going to talk about the difference. How many points do you? 300. Love it. How many? Okay, so percentage. Well, right. Absolutely. So what I was going to say is if you decide to use points, my first piece of advice is always make it out of some 100. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, however many points your student can earn, make it a nice round 100. You don't have to, but if you don't do that, then the math gets a little more complicated. It's even more difficult for the students to understand. So I do think it's important for the students to understand how they will work towards their final grade, what they need to do, how many points they could possibly earn. If you do a percentage system, it's a little bit different because it's 100 sort of, but it might be that they're doing a research paper that's worth 25% of the grade. Their attendance might be worth 10% of the grade. They might have 3 quizzes, each worth 5% of the grade. Or you might decide you're going to give 10 quizzes, but all the quizzes averaged are worth 15% of the grade. So there are a lot of different ways to do this. Yes, absolutely. If it's just 100, then you have certain quizzes and they're worth 10 points each. Or 10, yeah. So, you want to make it simple for yourself and for the students. Because I really feel that if the students don't understand the grading system up front in your syllabus, then it's, well, if your grading system is very complicated, I've seen some complicated systems, and I sometimes tell the faculty member at that point, is there a way we can simplify this? So that's the time that it might be, maybe you've decided I'm going to do percentages, and everything will be out of 100 because they understand that 43 is really an 86. But they might not understand that, as she says, because not everybody is math thinking right off the top of their head or understanding. So no matter what, it's your class. You're making a decision on how you're going to run it. But I do think it's important to be student-centered and be sure that however you do it, it's a way that hopefully they'll understand. So, when I was teaching, I had a research paper that was worth, I think, 35% of the grade. And I kept telling them, this is worth 35% of your grade. That means if you don't do it, already you're in big trouble. So I kept emphasizing over and over again to be sure that they understood that it's worth 35% of the grade, because when I put it in Excel or any grade book, it's merciless, right? It's going to just do those numbers. But you're deciding up front, before this talk is really just to say, before we even go into a grade book, we are deciding points, percentages, and when we make that decision, we might be thinking about how we'll explain it to our students. That, when they see, if I give that research paper 35 points and they get a 32, that they're going to need to understand what that means. Or maybe I'm not doing that, maybe I'm doing it out of 100, but in my spreadsheet the percentage is what's going to be, and I'll have to explain that. Points are easier in Excel or anywhere, because then all you have to do is add them up and divide by 100, right? Or whatever turn it into out of 100, basically. Or divide by, if you're doing it out of 300, you divide by 3, and it's done. She gets her grade out of 100. So if you work with points, I'm just going to mention what I'm going to do now is superfluous, because I'm going to talk about percentages and how you have to add up each one, average it, then multiply it by the percent, which is the weight of that assessment. For others, if they're doing it by points, out of 300, we're just going to do a column for each assessment and the possible number of points, and they type in what they have, and we add it up and then divide by 3 or divide by 4 if it's out of 400, divide by 5. I created a workbook for the T to K program, and at the time they were doing it out of 500 points, because they had so many activities that the kids did around here. They earned 10 points for that, 40 points for this, all the way up to 500. And at the end, if they got 452 out of 500, then we had to do our little calculation, divide by 3 to see what it is out of 100, basically, for that letter grade. Okay, so the first thing I do in my workbook is I go back to my Cainwise data, and I'm going to copy my student names again. Or I could go to my attendance sheet, because I liked having my perfect student already in there. So I could come there as well and click and drag to select and copy. So is everyone there? I've got my perfect student, and I've got all the names of my students. I click and drag to highlight them. Control C to copy. I'm going to go to my grades and I'm going to type in name, and I'm going to paste. Oh. Mine's not pasting. I must have caused a problem. Grades, paste. Okay, there we go. So I want to be sure that everybody has a blank worksheet now with the first column, just the names of all their students. Is everyone able to go back and forth between worksheets, creating new worksheets? All we have is 3. I do want to mention, again, I work with a lot of faculty doing this. Sometimes they've decided instead of doing one big worksheet, which is what we're going to do, it's not going to be that big, they create a separate worksheet for each type of assessment. They might have one worksheet for quizzes, one worksheet for participation, one worksheet for written assignments, because they have a lot of assignments. And then they're doing averages on each worksheet and then bringing them into a final worksheet where they do a tally. That can be pretty complicated, but it's all possible. I think the best thing to do is make it as simple as possible at the same time, but it really depends on what you're teaching, what your field is, the way you need to assess the students on their classwork. I had one faculty member who, I think they were in theater and performing arts, and every class they were assessing performances that they did. So it was a lot of complicated calculations, took us a bit. But again, it mirrors your syllabus. If your syllabus is pretty straightforward, we're going to do a straightforward one right now. I'm going to come in here, and my first column, I think I might do my attendance. Okay. Then my next column, I'm going to do, I actually have something in the handout we could follow if you would like to. If you go to page 7. We're going to make this simple. Oh, I'm sorry. On page 7, I'm going to be powerful. I'm going to just have exam 1 and exam 2. And my first exam is going to be worth 25% of my grade. And exam 2 is going to be worth 65%. Do I need to zoom in some more? Okay. Yep. Oh, what happened here? Darn. Go back. I'm trying to zoom in, and it's not working for me. Sorry. We're going to try that again. Did it undo? Okay, so I did attend exam 1. And if you don't see it, you know you can double click and it will expand your column. And exam 2. So this is what it's going to look like for now. Ooh, actually I made a mistake. That's why I had a problem. No, just the cells. Hello. There we go. Okay, so all we've done is put in a column for attendance, exam 1 and exam 2. Our attendance, can you guess what our attendance is worth? I'm hoping. Right. So this is a difficult class, right? I don't know if you want to take this class. Okay. But I'm doing this just for the purpose of being simple for now. You might have multiple quizzes, papers, worth different percentages. What you're going to do literally is looking at your syllabus, I'm hoping, seeing what you've listed, what percentage you have next to it, and just fill that first row with that information. Right? Is that what everyone has on there? I've looked at a lot of syllabi. So I've seen usually it's just a list of all the assessments and what the weight is, what the percentage might be. Again, some though have points, and they show the points, and then it adds up to 300, 400, however many points. Okay, so now I'm going to put in my attendance, and I'm going to put in my grades, right? So I can go to my attendance, and I've got this tally running, right? Here's my tally. My tally might change if I add more numbers in, but I'm going to make pretend for whatever reason it's done, my tally. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it into my final grade book. Now, if I wanted to do a midpoint, I could do that as well. We don't have enough grades that we're going to do, but I could copy the attendance at midpoint, and I could do a weighted calculation for my first 3 quizzes out of 5, my first 2 tests out of 4 or 5, and do a calculation as well. For now, we're going to make pretend it's the end of the semester and I'm ready to do my final tally. And I recommend doing this at the beginning as well. So 16 is my total number of days I could attend, but I'm going to copy all the way down for now. I just wanted to give this a try. So if I wanted to take all of my tallies, and I'm going to copy them, Control C. So I'm copying. Has anyone ever tried to copy and paste? I mean, we could reference cells from different worksheets, but I'm going to recommend that that can be a little tricky. So I want to paste my attendance in here. What would happen if I just pasted? Does everyone see what happens if I just copy and paste? I like to show these mistakes so that you won't be surprised if it accidentally happens. Did anyone just try to copy and paste their attendance from one worksheet to another? You're going to get this error message if you just do a simple copy and paste, because it's trying to reference a formula, and that's not what I want. I just want the values that were in those cells. So I'm going to undo, and I'm going to try now to paste values. Has anyone ever seen this on the paste button? We have some different ways to paste. I'm going to try to paste values. And now I get just those numbers that were there. Did that make sense? I want to be sure everyone understood. This is an Excel obstacle, I call it, because I know I've seen a lot of people do this. They have a calculation on one worksheet, and they want to paste the results of that calculation into another one. And they try to just copy and paste, and they get an error message. And I say, make sure when you do the paste that you click on the bottom half of the paste button and select that you're pasting just the values. Okay, now, I highlighted the entire column. I copied it, and then I came to this next worksheet where I was going to paste it. I clicked, in the column where I wanted it to dump it, basically. But when I went to this paste, I clicked on the bottom half and selected values so that I'd get the right paste happening. You were in the attendance worksheet? Okay, and you highlighted them. You need to... I'm sorry? Okay, so you highlighted and copied first. Right, and now click where you want them to go. So you should be right in front of Perfect Student. Click on the bottom half of the paste button. And did you see values, paste values? It's not, I'm going to take a look. Okay, I'm seeing that. Right, let's go back to, where's the sheet?
And I clear it, right?
Right, and
And I did Control C.
Okay, we're going to undo it and try again. Hit escape. Okay, now from the 25 down, right? And
then
Control C. And now we're going to go to the page with the,
Here.
oh, you have two different workbooks.
What?
Two different workbooks.
Oh,
This is your problem, I think. I'm almost positive, but I'm going to look. Yep. You have two Excel workbooks because you came a little late, maybe. But what we needed to do was create another worksheet.
oh, within the same.
Right. A grade book should be more than one worksheet. In the beginning, we named attendance sheet, grades. So now if I go to paste,
Then it will have that.
now I can paste values. Okay, don't worry. You can just type in some values to do a calculation, just to go through the, okay. Just a quick mistake there, and I want to be sure everyone understands that we're using more than one worksheet in one workbook. If you have more than one workbook, you're going to have problems taking data from one to the other. We'd have to probably import the data. You don't want to do that. One workbook per class. I will tell you, though, I do have some faculty who instead have one workbook for all their courses, and they do a tab for each or a worksheet for each course. And that works fine, especially if it's a pretty simple grade book. Or they could have their class and their attendance sheet and then a class and an attendance sheet. You could conceivably have one workbook for all of your courses. Just depends on how much you're doing there, how many different assessments you might have. Okay, exam 1, our perfect student gets 100, right? And exam 2, our perfect student gets 100. So I want to be sure everyone's with me. And now we're going to do a final score and maybe even a final grade. We're going to see if we can do both today. Okay, Josh, I understand, but we have our last tally. You'll come by, right? Okay. I'm here on Fridays. We'll work one-on-one. We'll get your grade book working. So we're going to do a quick calculation for the final score for our student using percentages. So to do your final score, you actually are going to write a formula to calculate it. And this is why I recommend having your perfect student, because at the very beginning, we can do the calculation, make sure that it adds up properly, and then we're going to use autofill to run the calculation for everybody else. Does that sound okay? Okay. So we should all be in the cell that is right underneath our final score. It's going to be a numerical score. The final grade, we could convert it into a letter grade, which I would like to show everyone how to do if we have time. So the first thing to do always is put in an equal sign. Okay. We've got that. Now we're going to put in our attendance. Our attendance is worth 10%, we decided, right? What I usually do is I click on my attendance. So you should see when I click, I'm picking my perfect student's perfect attendance. So here I know it's 16, but over here it's referencing the cell location, which is B2. Okay, and I divide by the number of days they could have attended, which I know is 16. Okay, does that make sense? Right, so if they attended 14 times, it really would be 14 divided by 16. The perfect student has 16 though, so it's 16 divided by 16. I know it's 10%, and because I know it's 10%, I know that it's really 10 points in a way. So now I'm going to multiply using the asterisk by 10. Oh, 10. So I'm hoping everyone's trying this on their worksheet. I don't know, should I zoom in a little more so we can see it better? I don't know if I'm going to be able to zoom. Nope, I'm already in the, can everyone see it? Is it too small to see? It's okay? Okay. Now, it's up to you. You don't have to do this, but a lot of times I like to put things in parentheses just so I'm sure it's going to all be done together. So I might do an open paren and a closed paren on this particular piece. That's just my attendance calculation so far that I've done. So again, it's referencing cell B2. It's dividing by the number of days that they could have attended, multiplying by 10 because I know it's 10% of my grade. Now I'm going to add the score on exam 1. And I know that that's worth 25% of the grade, so I'm going to multiply by 0.25. And again, you could put them in parentheses. Sometimes I like to do that just to be sure that it's going to work out well. You know, I warn people that sometimes if a 0 comes in there, you know, the student got a 0 on something, we get into trouble with calculations. If it divides by 0 in some way, anything can happen. So I recommend the parentheses. It's a math thing, order of operations. Now I'm going to add again. And I'm going to select exam 2. And because it's worth 65%, I'm going to multiply by 0.65. Now, and this is where I give my very basic math warning. You know, you might have things that are worth 5%, only because I've checked a lot of grade books when faculty say it doesn't add up right, and I see that they've multiplied by 0.5 for something that was worth 5%. So that means really it should have been by 0.05. Right? Because if it was 0.5, that would have been 50% of the grade. So this is a part of the grade book where we have to be accurate and things mess up. And at this point also, this is where I cross my fingers, my toes, my legs, everything. I'm hoping this is going to work. But I think I'm done. Now, if I had lots of assessments, I would really just build this long formula, plus this times the percent, plus that times the percent, plus... And I'm going through, I could put the parentheses around it. The attendance is probably the trickiest one. But I'm hoping I'm going to just now hit enter. And that's when I say, I'm done. You are done. If you get that 100 or the final score, it could be the number of points or whatever it might be for your perfect student, you're done for the semester. Because now that I have this formula that works, I'm going to autofill it. You see with the thin plus sign, I autofill it all the way down for all of my students. Okay, and they're in trouble at the moment. But what you'll see is it's going to run a tally. And this is part of the reason, even looking at a midterm, if you see that they have, you know, midway through 50-some, then you know that they're doing okay. And you might then convert it out of 100 so you could tell them what the midterm grade is. Because you're going to see a running total. So for student 1, let's say, you know, they actually came, I'm going to say 13 times. Exam 1, they got an 89. And the final exam, they got 93. So I'm hoping you're seeing, as I entered in the grades, it was running the formula. So, you know, student 2 actually came every day and got, I don't know, a 97 and a 95. And I have a calculation. So it all goes in. As I'm entering my scores, I'm going to have a running total. Again, if it's out of points, it's going to be a running total out of a certain number of points. In that case, I would probably be doing a sum, though, not weighting my percentages. Okay, I'm going to stop just for a minute and ask whether this seems like something that works for you. Maybe? Again, you could conceivably create another column that could be a midterm grade that you want to calculate. And then you're picking how many assessments will be done by a certain date, and you create your formula just selecting those, adding them in to get a score. But you only have to do that tally or that calculation, that formula once, copy it for all of you. Make sure your perfect student adds up to that number you're looking for, and then follow through with all the other students with autofill, where you're copying that formula all the way down the column. I know that here at Kane and in Kane-Wise, we don't enter in number grades, right? We put in letter grades. Is that right? Everybody puts in a letter grade at the end of the semester. So I'm going to actually go into my email for a moment because I have a table. I probably should have looked it up earlier. That, I have to do it in Internet Explorer. A table for converting grades or converting numbers to grades. But before I do it, I want to be sure, is this something everyone would want to do? Because we can convert the number grade into a letter grade with a lookup table. So again, before I do that, is that something you might want to do? Yeah? Okay, let me give it a try. I'm going to look it up, and when I find it, I can email it to you too. No. I didn't know that we would get through to the lookup table, which is great. While I'm waiting, okay, my email to come through. What we would do is we would create another worksheet, or we could put it on the same worksheet, but for now I'm going to create another worksheet, and I'm going to call it grade scale. So I'm in Excel, and again, I'm throwing up just another worksheet in this workbook where I'm going to put the grade scale in. And part of the reason I need to look it up, why is it doing, not now. I'm going to look up what the range of numbers is and how it converts to letter grades, because different places do it differently. Okay. I'm looking for... oh my gosh, new. Maybe you guys know what the grade scales are. Do you guys know this off the top of your heads? Because I never remember. You have it in your syllabus. That's the best place. And that's a good thing to do. Oh, I have a grade book right here. Come on. We're going to put in a table that lists the grades, hopefully. Let's see if I can do it viewing. I don't think I'm going to be able to download it. Okay, I can. Great, 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 great. Here we are. This is I'm going to copy and paste it from one that I have. And I'll email it to all of you too, since everyone signed in, right? If you didn't sign in, make sure you sign in so that I can email this to you. Or you can type it up pretty quickly. And now I'm going to zoom in to be sure that you can see it. Oop. So I have a table that is, at least this was what was given to me for the T to K course, that explained how the grades convert from numerical to letter. It might be different for graduate students, I don't know. And it might be different in certain schools, so I can't guarantee that this is exactly it. But if you look at this table, I'm hoping you can see that a 93 or up will give someone an A, and there's no A plus, from what I know. Right? An 89 to a 92 is going to return an A minus. An 85 to an 88 is going to return a B plus. An 82 to 84, a B. So everyone gets that? So all I'm doing is I have this table in my grade book. 83 to 86, okay. Well, again, I can't say, but there might be, so it could be different for different, you can put in your own grade scale table though. This is very flexible, and that's to me also a beauty piece in Excel, is that really you can deem your grade scale, you can customize it exactly the way you want it to be. So again, we were in a worksheet called grade scale. I'm going to zoom out a tiny bit. And we're going to take this grade scale that I put in. We have the score column and the grade column. It's 2 columns. And we're going to do a vertical lookup. There are 2 kinds of lookups you can do in Excel, a vertical lookup or a horizontal lookup. This is a vertical table. You could create a horizontal table also. I like the vertical one, so that's why I picked it. Now we're going to select just this range of cells here without the word score and without the word grade. So have all of you managed to type in a quick table, I'm hoping, on a worksheet? We want to now select just these cells right here. And I'm going to come up into the name box. I don't know if any of you have used this name box up here in Excel. I'm going to name this range of cells because I'm going to call it from a different worksheet. I'm going to go into my grades worksheet and I'm going to call this range of cells so that I can get it to return the letter grades for me. So when I click in the name box over here, I'm going to call it Kane scale, for example. When you name a range of cells, it has to be one word, no spaces. And the naming convention is usually that you put a capital letter for each word. So 2 words, Kane scale. I've named it, and I'm going to hit enter. So if I click away, it goes, you should see the name box is showing me whatever cell I've clicked on. And even if I click in here, it's just giving me the cell that I've clicked on. But when I select this range of scales, I should always see it's Kane scale. So I've taken a range of cells on a worksheet and given it a name. So again, when I do a formula, I can call that range of cells. So now I'm going back to my grades, and I'm going over here to the final grade for my students. And I'm going to do a lookup, a vertical lookup, which is, again, this isn't a formula, it's a function that's inside of Excel. There are a couple of ways I could do this. We could try using the function dialog box. So I'm going to go over here where be sure, first of all, that you've selected the cell, again, that the grade is going to appear. And I'm going to select this button, click on it, the insert function button. And it gives me this insert function dialog box. And if I don't remember the name of the function, I can do a search. But I'm going to say what I want to do is a lookup. Maybe I didn't remember what it was called, so I'm just typing the word lookup in the search for a function, and I'm going to select go. And hopefully it will give me some different functions that might relate to what I'm trying to do. And I know I want to do a VLOOKUP, so I'm going to select VLOOKUP. And what it tells me for VLOOKUP, it gives me a definition of what this function does. And it looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table. So we created a table. So it's looking for a value in the leftmost column, and it's going to return a value in the same row from a column that I specify, which is going to be somewhere on the right. So we only have a 2-column table, but you could create a lookup table that has 3, 4, 5 columns, and you could pick which column it's going to return a value from. So I'm going to say for now, okay, that's what I want to do, a VLOOKUP. And now what you should see is, this is kind of nice. I could manually type this in, but it does it for me, which prevents me from making a mistake in my syntax, because Excel is very specific. So it's given me equals VLOOKUP, open paren, close paren. That's the syntax for any function. It's equals, the name of the function, and then inside of those parentheses, we're going to put arguments, which is what we're going to be calculating, referencing. So it says the first thing it needs is a lookup value. And I know what I want it to look up in this case. I want it to look up this value for my student, what score they got, their final score. So I'm just going to click on that cell. So I could also just type in E2. The next, it's asking me for the table array, which I named. Remember on the other worksheet? And I named it Kane scale. And if you take a look when I type it in, it's pretty neat. It shows actually what's going on in that table. It automatically comes up. The next argument it wants is the column index number, which means, remember I said it could have more than 2 columns, 3, 4, but what I really wanted to return is from column 2, right? The letter grades were in column 2. So I'm going to just type in the number 2. And this one, we don't need to do. Whenever you see these, if it's not in bold, it means you don't need that argument necessarily. So vertical lookup usually takes 3 arguments. What we're looking up, the value that we're looking up, the range of cells that are going to contain the data for lookup, and then the column that I wanted to return a value from. So now I'm going to just say, OK. And we can see that my perfect student gets an A, I hope. If you don't have a happy face, it means it didn't work. And then I can autofill all the way down for all of my students. And you're going to see so far they're not doing well. But the first 2, I did plug in data for. So it gives me a letter grade. I did it in this other, I created a separate worksheet just because. You know, I didn't have to. I could have put this table right on the same worksheet, and I could have even selected it. I didn't have to name it. But I like to do that just because it's something that's static. This isn't going to change. So I figure, this might be one of the first steps I'm going to do. I'm going to put in my scale and just name this range. So I selected it, and I gave it a name in the name box. So now from any worksheet, I can pull it. So again, as I said, some faculty choose to do one workbook for all their courses. If they did that, they could have this scale on any worksheet, and then all of them could be calling the same table to pull the letter grades. And I might want to do what we did in the attendance, possibly. If you have a lot of assessments, you know, going all the way across, maybe you have 20 different things going on here. You could freeze your pane over here so that then you could slide. I mean, it's not going to work for this because we don't have enough. So I could slide it over and see the letters exactly next to their names as I'm doing my data entry at the end of the semester. Make sure I don't make any mistakes. So I remember that end of the semester crunch where I had to put all those letter grades in. And I only taught one class. I had 28 students. So I thought, wow, if I was teaching 4 classes, this would be heavy-duty data entry, and I don't want to make any mistake. So I want to be sure I've got a hard and fast conversion to letter grade, and that I can just go down the list and put it in. I'm going to call it, because I try to do this in an hour and a half. But I want to ask again, does anybody have any questions, thoughts about how, yes? You can do that in Blackboard, absolutely. Just depends on what you're doing. You know, if you want to use Blackboard, they have a gradebook in there. So yes, I encourage Blackboard for reasons that it is a course management system, and the students can see the grades. I used Excel. I liked the control of Excel. I liked putting in all my grades, my formulas in the beginning, doing my calculation. And I was able, you know, it depends on what you're doing. You can do a mail merge, and it can pull data and email them. You can put this, I mean, there are many ways to take this and communicate it to your students at any point during the semester. But again, Blackboard does have this functionality if you're using it. I don't know. I haven't used the gradebook in Blackboard. You know, again, I don't know. Some might be able to give some feedback. You know, have you tried the gradebook in Blackboard? And why would you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it depends on how you want to do it. Again, you could take this, you know, you could take this spreadsheet, you can put it into Google, and they have an email merge as well, that it would email each student the data that you've got as fields. So again, it depends on what you want to do, what technology tool you choose is tricky to say. You know, there are pluses and minuses to both. I wish I could give a better explanation. I really do think a course management system is just that. It really has a lot of functionality in it that is for managing, administering a course. And this is the administrative part of it. So I think Blackboard is actually very powerful as a tool to use for the administrative pieces. But it depends on how you're delivering your course. That's a great thought. I never thought of that, that you could give them in your website a template of the, yep. Fantastic. I learn more when I teach this kind of stuff than, you know, sitting in my office. That everybody has their own, not really, everyone has their own way of running a class, and I do think, you know, depending on the class you're teaching, sometimes it's a good idea to put the responsibility on them in a way to say, hey, yeah, pay attention. Don't wait for me to give you the tally. You could do it yourself. Just give them a worksheet that has the formula in. If you're doing the formula, it's a done deal. But I think I noticed you have grad students, so I mean, it depends on, again, what level of independence. Well, you know, to tell you the truth, I really think it's important for everybody to be able to use Excel. I don't mean to, you know, to say that it's an absolute necessity, but, you know, I have a high schooler, and I'm helping her use Excel because she needs it at this point in high school. You know, she's using things even more advanced than Excel, but, you know, yeah, she started, you know, in middle school. I, you know, gave her a tiny bit of support in PowerPoint because they were already using PowerPoint. But this is a suite of tools that they'll use in college, in their workplace, wherever it might be. They won't have Blackboard outside of the university setting. They'll have whatever tools their workplace uses. So having familiarity with Excel can't be a bad thing for them at all. For them to download an Excel spreadsheet and plug in some numbers, I think that's pretty reasonable, especially if the formula is already written. Because you have a recipe that you're following, so that's why that's a good thing. You know, I couldn't do that because everybody's going to follow their own methodology, and that's why before we even went into doing a calculation, I said, let's talk about what your recipe is. Your recipe should be in your syllabus. You should be explaining it to your students probably on the first day of class as well. And then if they have a spreadsheet with that recipe in it, then they're going to even understand it more. And the students understanding how their grade happens is not bad. That's very good. You know, and again, I can bring my high schooler up. She gets, for each class, they send home not a syllabus exactly, but how the grading is done and the rules of the class, basically. It's not a full-fledged syllabus, but she has to understand how many tests and quizzes and how that's going to make the grade happen. So again, using it in Blackboard, totally the way to go if that's the way you're having your students interact. And if that's the place they're going for course content, then I think it's probably a good idea to use the gradebook in there. I can't give that answer. I don't know. I don't administer. I'm not the administrator of Blackboard. Hard to say. I find that, you know, I get people who don't use it. So That's what my interaction is usually, the people who've decided I'm not using Blackboard, I just want to put this content, these things online, and I can help with that. So it's hard to say. I think that there are some areas that are requiring that Blackboard is used. Certain GE courses, I think, require that there's a Blackboard shell that's already created. So probably certain 1,000 courses might be using Blackboard with a standard setup for that course. So that's possible, and in that case, it's probably a good idea to use the gradebook in Blackboard. I mean, to me, no matter what, it should be automated. That's my biggest piece. If you're still using a calculator and the eraser on the back of your pencil, that's a bad way to go. Mistakes happen. It's very inefficient. You really want to have it in a place where it's really done for you, that it's a bit of input in the beginning that follows your syllabus pretty strictly. And, you know, again, this was a very simple one. I've worked with a lot of people. I can't say what Blackboard does. It probably gives you this functionality. But I've had people who said, oh, I do 10 quizzes and I drop the 2 lowest grades. And I say, all right, we need to write a formula for that. You know, Excel is so flexible, you can do almost anything. We can do, you know, do an average of all of these, but, you know, don't include the lowest score for this or that. I mean, there's a lot of different things everybody does. Again, I don't do the grade book in Blackboard to know for certain, but my hope would be that it offers all of this flexibility that you've explained to your students in the syllabus, so they know I can skip a quiz because it's going to drop the lowest one, or, you know. In Blackboard, yeah. So, because these are common things that teachers do. So it should. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We do an intro and an intermediate, both. And it goes over the kinds of things we did. This is a specific class with the goal of getting a grade book done. But yeah, for just getting comfortable with Excel and doing different things, I have. Okay, you're welcome. I hope it was helpful. Do you know how to get in touch with me if you need or? Okay. Okay, great. Okay. So yeah, we should be. Yes, there are a lot of different formulas and functions. Yep. So, but yeah, everybody has different, you know, ways of doing things, which is what makes, to me, a university a great place, because it's not strict necessarily. You can use Blackboard or other tools to, you know, but again, the goal is, at this point in time, we should be making it as efficient and smooth as possible so that you're spending time developing your course, not calculating the grades. So, in what? Uh-oh. Yeah, so it's a preference, you know, it depends on what tool. But Google Sites, I warn everybody, it's not a course management system. It's just not. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, you know, and you as the teacher know what you do. And when anybody comes to me, I say, I don't want to change the way you teach. I want you to tell me what you do, and we're going to make it even better by having these tools available. So if you tell me what you do, we can use tools to make it better. Not change it, make it better. Different things, make things more available for your students so they can find it easily, interact with it better, whenever, however. And a lot of it depends on how you organize your course, the way you teach your course. Google Sites is very flexible. That's to me the thing. I find Excel very flexible, Google Sites very flexible. It doesn't necessarily think that it knows what I want to do. It follows what there are certain, I find some things try to make me fit what I'm doing into this format. And again, if you don't want that, if you have your own, I have one faculty member who uses blogs a lot in her teaching. And it helps her because she says, we do a lot of discussion and commenting, and I want them to be doing it outside of class and inside class, and that tool works for her. I had recommended discussion groups, but she said, no, I think this blog tool is going to do what I do. And I thought, okay, we'll try it then, and it works for her. So, it really depends on what you do to teach your topic. And then there are other courses where really they're just using a textbook, and they're just following the textbook, and that's a very structured, and that might work well because Blackboard might integrate that textbook into it. So then you would go that direction. I don't know, does that make some decision-making sense, or, yeah, okay. Okay, I'm gonna call it, can we be, I wanna unhook myself.